variances to look at today. So the meeting is being recorded, as we now know. And George, is George on here?
I am.
George, do you want to read the opening statement on broadcast?
Well, I would just a statement that this is being conducted as a hybrid meeting with both remote and physical participation as a result of the governor's disaster proclamations and amendments to the Open Meetings Act.
Great, thank you. If staff could take roll call.
Mr. Valentini,
Here.
Ms. Harris,
Here.
Mr. McFarland,
Here.
Mr. Straza,
Here.
Mr. Noonan,
Here.
Ms. Williams. Absent.
Okay, thank you.
Quorum.
Good, great. So asking for public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person for a total of up to 30 minutes, which is a lot if there's people there. The public may comment on items not on the regular agenda, and we can respond accordingly to the public comment. Is there anybody there or online, Caitlin, that would like to make public comment?
Nobody registered for public comment.
Okay. So with that being said, let's go on to the minutes from the last meeting. We can review those. And any
I move
changes?
to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. So the
Mr.
minutes are,
Val-
oh, I'm sorry. ahead.
Mr. Valentini,
Yes,
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Straza,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
Ms. Williams. And I'm gonna, sorry, stop reading that. Passes.
okay. Okay, with that being done, let's just go on to the regular agenda for the meeting today. On first is Z.15.21 from Vincente and Jennifer Adamy regarding a 1,200 square foot detached garage. So this is a public hearing to consider this petition for this variance. If we can first have a brief presentation by staff, and then we'll swear in and have a short presentation from the petitioner, and then hear testimony and go forward. So if staff could do their part.
Yeah, bear with me. This is my first time in city council chambers and my first time having 2 screens to do this. So we'll see how well that works. 1 second. Okay. So staff is recommending against the requested variance due to the fact that it does not meet all 5 standards required of a variance. In terms of existing and zoning and uses, you can see in the aerial, this is the subject property is located east of the East Grove Historic District, kind of by a commercial corridor, as you can see with the B2 zoning over here. It's a predominantly residential neighborhood. There's some, it's largely single and multifamily in most directions. Multifamily to the north and to the south and west, and then single family to the north, south, east, and west. The subject property was originally platted in 1895 and then constructed in the 1900s. I've attached a visual of the original plat. You can see that I believe it's this lot here where my cursor is. It and the lot adjacent to it on the west side are the same proportions. They are 94 feet by 340 feet for a total of 32,000 square feet. This lot here has since been subdivided. You can kind of see in the aerial, if I go back, the way that it has been subdivided. I guess also worth noting that the subject property and some neighboring properties were rezoned from R3A to R1C in 1999. So the petitioner is requesting a variance in order to construct a garage that's a little bit over what we allow by code for accessory structures. We allow 1,000 square feet gross floor, or 1,000 square feet gross floor area. And they're requesting 1,200 square feet. The garage in all other respects meets the code, or the proposed garage meets the code in all other respects, and exceeds many of the minimum requirements. For instance, the minimum setback would be 10 feet from the principal building. It's setback 21 feet. As proposed, it's setback 3 feet from the side lot line, and 175 feet from the rear lot line. And as indicated on the site plan itself, it is located 111 feet back from the sidewalk. So the requested 1,200 square feet just represents a 20% increase in what we allow by code. As to the findings of fact, staff found that the first two criteria were not met. That the property has physical characteristics that pose unreasonable challenges that make strict adherence to the code difficult. That's not met due to the fact that adherence to the code is possible. They could build the garage as an attached garage by right or without the need of a variance for the size of the addition at any rate. There's no physical characteristics existent on the lot that would prevent compliance with the code. But with that said, the latter three criteria are met. Because the subdivision was established in 1895, it's far before the zoning ordinance's adoption in 1969. And additionally, the R1C district is not necessarily meant to contemplate parcels of this size. The proposed garage meets all the other requirements of accessory structures, including stipulations that it be smaller than the principal building, which it is, and that it not exceed 30% of the rear yard area. So it's proportionate to the unusually large size of the property within this neighborhood. For criterion 4, it would not give the applicant any special privilege that's denied to others due to the fact that there do appear, at least from an aerial, appear to be other accessory structures in the neighborhood that exceed that 1,000 square foot maximum, or perhaps by means of a loophole, there's properties with multiple accessory structures that are individually under 1,000 square feet, but which combined constitute over that limit. And then, of course, there's also the fact that the subject property is more than twice the size of any others in the area. And then lastly, the garage as proposed would be relatively inconspicuous from both East Olive and East Grove streets due to the fact that it's set back more than 100 feet from both streets. It's not anticipated to have a negative impact on surrounding development or use of surrounding properties, particularly as it's proportionate to the size of the lot itself. But since the first two standards were not met, and for variances, all 5 standards must be met, staff is recommending against the variance.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin. Is there any questions for staff on the report? None? Okay. Are the petitioners online or in person, Caitlin?
They don't appear to be online. I don't know whether or not they're in person.
Okay. This has been a first. Normally they're there one way or another, aren't they? Okay. So the having not, having a petitioner in person, I guess we would go on to, if there's any persons there that'd like to speak in favor of the variance. Do we have any of that? Nope.
Nobody
And-
registered and no emails were received for this case.
Okay, and so thus there's probably nobody that's against the petition as well. Right? Nobody against it as well.
Correct.
Okay. So George, with this, we can go ahead and just make a motion to accept or deny?
Yes, our code actually considers the first part, the first motion to be a motion of approval. However, I would say that requesting a variance is, in a sense, the burden is on the requester. So if people feel that it hasn't been met, you can either table it, give them another opportunity to address it, next month, or you could vote it down. Or you could vote in favor, although I don't know that there's been evidence presented that would indicate that all those factors are met.
Right.
So those are your options. And I say technically the code does talk about a motion for approval being there, although if there's not one of those, there could be a motion of a different kind.
Anybody have a suggestion that they want to make? Okay. I motion to go ahead and table this to give them an opportunity to attend, to give voice to whatever they're looking for before we vote yay or nay.
I'd second that.
Thank you. We can have a call.
Okay. And this would be to a date certain then, Terry? Are we looking then at the, it would be the third Wednesday in July?
Yes.
So we'd be looking at July 21st, just so we have the date certain in the motion.
So if we can have, I guess we've already discussed that, but the motion on July 21st to bring this back before the committee.
Seconded.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Straza,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentini.
Yes,
Passes.
good. Okay, let's go on to the second variance request. It's numbered Z dot 16.21. The petitioners are Richard and Roxana Wright. They're asking for a 6-foot tall fence variance. So if we could have staff report on that, that'd be awesome.
Staff is recommending in favor of the requested variance. In terms of the existing zoning and uses, the neighborhood's primarily residential in character. However, it is to the east of the Union Pacific Railroad, which you can see in the aerial here. The subject property is a through lot, so it fronts onto both O'Hara Street and West Empire Street. The homes on this block of O'Hara all front onto O'Hara Street and more or less use the northern part of the property facing Empire as the rear yard. However, by definition, many of these homes, most of these homes actually on this block, are considered to have 2 front yards because they are through lots. What differentiates this from, say, like the corner lot cases we had in the past with fence regulations is the code defines the front yard as the area from the right of way up to the principal building, I believe. And so it wouldn't be a matter of setting the fence back a certain extent in order to build it 6 feet in height. It's this whole area up to the principal structure is considered the front yards for these through lots. Here's the site as it currently exists. You can see the houses, nothing fronts onto Empire Street. This is looking west from Empire Street. So this is a view of that area. It terminates in a cul-de-sac, and then a view, I believe, of the subject property and the fence post that would indicate where the fence would be placed. As to the findings of fact, staff found that all were met, essentially due to the fact that this is a through lot. It presents a unique physical challenge to make full use of the lot. The strict adherence to the code would limit the property owner's ability to fence in the portion of the yard that they use as the rear yard. Additionally, because that whole northern portion of the lot is considered the front yard, no matter how far back you set the fence or where you place the fence in relation to the property line along Empire, it would require a variation in order to build it over 4 feet in height. The circumstances were not created by any action of the applicant. The lot was platted between those two streets, and so it's circumstances beyond their control. It would also not give the applicant any special privilege to grant the variation request due to the fact that many nearby homes have constructed accessory structures between the principal structure along between the principal structure and West Emerson Street. So it establishes a precedence to treat the yard as a rear yard, or treat the northern part of the property as a rear yard. Additionally, because West Empire Street terminates in that cul-de-sac, granting the variance would not negatively impact property owners to the west. And then lastly, because the homes along that block of O'Hara Street treat the frontage on Empire Street as a rear yard, it would not alter the character of the neighborhood, and it should not negatively impact use or enjoyment of surrounding properties. So with that, we're recommending approval.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff on the report? Okay, seeing none. I believe I saw that we do have the petitioners. Is it correct? Do we have the petitioners online, or do we not?
I'm here, sir.
Okay, so we're going to hear testimony from you. If you could state your name and your address, please.
My name is Richard Wright. I live at 713 O'Hara Street in Bloomington.
Okay. On the testimony that you're about to give on your request for your variance, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
Sure. Thank you. So please tell us what you have in mind.
So we're putting a pool in our backyard. To the back of us, we have a house that has already erected a 6-foot gate or a 6-foot fence. They did it approximately 3 to 4 years ago, and they didn't get a permit. They did it because they have younger children and they have a big dog that can jump a 4-foot fence. To the east of us, we have a house that attaches our house to our house. If you look in the picture, you'll see the white fence. That's our neighbor. They have young children. So the neighbors would prefer us to have the 6-foot fence. We would prefer that as well because the kids can jump over the 4-foot fence, and we're concerned that they may get in there, and there's a lot of little toys that they play with out in that on Empire Street, and we consider Empire Street an alleyway because nobody maintains it from the city. Nobody uses it. The property next to me was actually subdivided. We owned it at one point, and we subdivided it. You can't build on it, so there's only an empty garage there. So it's not going to affect it on that side either, or any kind of clearances. So that's why we're asking the board to grant this, so we can protect, the children in the neighborhood as well. And they won't be able to get into our pool, even though we have met the standards for our pools, where we have the right height. We have a folding ladder that goes up that will lock, and it will have an alarm on it. But just to add an added safety measure, we're asking for this. And the fact that we have a neighbor behind us that has already constructed the 6-foot fence and have done it without permits, it hasn't really affected any of I don't even know what to say. It hasn't affected the neighborhood in aesthetics wise.
Do we have any questions for the petitioner? No? Okay, having seen none, thank you, Mr. Wright, appreciate it. Are there any other respondents in favor? That's online or in person, Caitlin?
Nobody's registered, but we did receive one email that I can enter into the record in favor.
Sure, would you mind reading that?
I am in support of the variance being requested by Richard and Roxana Wright. They are at the dead end of the street. I see no reason at all to stop them from putting up the 6-foot fence that they desire. Thank you. Sincerely, Pam Wheeler.
Thank you. And there weren't any other in favor, any people in disapproval?
Not to my awareness. Nobody's registered and nobody appears to be at City Hall.
Okay, with that being said, that concludes the request portion. If any of the counselors like to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve it, that standards are met.
Second.
Okay, so is that a motion to accept the staff findings as set forth in the staff report?
Yes.
That all the factors are met? Okay. Did we get a second on that? I'm sorry.
Straza and McFarland.
Oh, okay.
Sound
Thank you.
right? Okay. Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Straza,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentini.
Yes. Congratulations.
That was for the,
Oh,
was that for both or just for the findings? Is that the approval as well?
I think we need the approval now. We'll do that one
yeah,
separate.
that was just for the finding. I was a little premature.
Okay, then we just need a motion.
So can we have a motion?
I'm so moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay, I have Harris and Straza. Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Straza,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
Mr. Valentini.
Yes. There we go. Now we have an approval, Mr. Wright. So congratulations again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's go on to the last one that we've got for the day, guys. This is Z-17-21. R. Randall Wilson is requesting a variance for a 5-foot reduction on his rear yard setback for a structure. So if we can hear from staff, that would be great.
Make sure I have the right slide. I do. Okay. Staff is recommending approval of the requested variance. For context, this is the existing zoning and uses of the septic property and surrounding neighborhood. It's zoned R1B, as is most everything in every direction, predominantly single-family housing. The P2 zoning in the center here is the David Davis Mansion. I believe this The subject property's neighborhood was platted in the 1950s or 1945 and then constructed in the 1950s. So again, prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance. So what the petitioner is proposing, this photo here where my cursor is, that's what currently exists there. There is an addition to the rear of the property outlined here in the site plans that encroaches into what would be a 30-foot rear yard setback from the adjacent property. The petitioner is proposing a 12 by 10 foot bathroom addition. I believe it would be over here, where approximately where the plant is, according to or based on the site plan provided. It would essentially preserve the existing footprint of the house in that it would not extend any further into the required 30-foot setback, but likewise it would have that 26-foot setback as the existing addition does. So it's considered, the structure as it currently exists is considered legal non-conforming. Here's another view of the subject property, and you can kind of get a sense of where it is in relation to the neighboring property to the rear. And again, to contextualize the request, this table to the right outlines the site standards required in the R1B district. So the requested reduction of the rear yard setback from 30 to 26 feet would represent approximately a 13% reduction in that required setback. In other respects, the lot is also non-conforming in the sense that the front yard is 15 rather than 30 feet, but in other respects that the lot is conforming, as is the structure that is on the lot. So as to the findings of fact, staff found that all were met. The property is negatively impacted by the curve of Walker Drive, which reduces the buildable area. Additionally, the existing structure is considered legal non-conforming in terms of not meeting those 30-foot setbacks in the rear and front yards. Any addition to the home would require a variance. And actually, in working with the petitioner, they agreed to rotate the proposed addition in order to limit the extent of the requested variance. That way it stays within the footprint of the existing building. Criterion 3, the variance is related to the property's configuration and the existing conditions of the home and the subdivision. And because the proposed addition does keep the existing footprint of the home, it should not negatively impact the character of the neighborhood nor the development or use of adjacent properties. So if that, we're recommending approval of the requested variance.
Thank you. Nice job, Caitlin. Thank you. Any questions for staff on the presentation? Okay. None being heard. Do we have the petitioners online or?
Yes.
Okay. So if you could do me a favor and state your name and your address.
I'm Randy Wilson. This is Melissa Wilson, and we're at 1 Walker Drive in Bloomington.
Okay. Do you both, and I guess we'll do this separately or unison, do you both swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you, guys. So if you could
Just
tell
for
us about your
purposes of
project. Oh, I'm sorry,
Excuse me,
George.
Jerry. I was just going to say, just for purposes of a record, if we have each person testify separately, makes it for a cleaner record. If they both decide to do that, I mean, we can start with either one.
Yeah, let's start with Randy.
Okay. Hello. Thanks for inviting us here, and we agree with everything that the staff just said. We appreciate their recommendation.
Swearing in.
Are you just asking for the swearing in at this point?
So we'll take these individually. So we'll talk to Randy first.
Okay,
And Randy, you are going to swear and tell the truth, correct?
Yes.
That's all.
Okay, please continue.
Okay, yes, we appreciate the staff's recommendation and we agree with it. What we want to do simply is put in another bathroom on the first floor that will be adjacent to a bedroom, so we can create a master bedroom, I should say. And it's going to be fully wheelchair accessible. We were going to do it as soon as we moved here in 2019. But when they got ready to start, COVID hit, and for various reasons, we weren't comfortable proceeding with the project. So we appreciate your approval of the bathroom addition.
Sure, thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Wilson? Seeing none. Mrs. Wilson, Melissa, right?
Yes,
And
I'm
you as
Melissa
well?
Wilson.
And you will promise to tell the truth as well, correct?
Yes, I will tell the whole truth.
Okay, if you have any input?
Nothing to add to what Randy said.
Okay. This is an easy day, guys. This is cool. You know? I like this. Okay,
We aim to please.
thank you. So having any questions for Ms. Wilson, anybody? No? Thank you guys for your testimony. Kaylin, is there anybody else in favor there or online? Or opposing?
Nobody registered. I don't believe anybody's at City Hall, and nobody emailed.
Okay. With that being said, that's the public hearing portion is closed. If we can go ahead and have a motion about the finding of fact.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, who was the second?
That's a motion to accept the findings of fact that the, as presented in the staff memorandum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Straza seconded it.
Okay.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Straza,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentini.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then if we can have a vote on the approval for the actual application.
So moved.
Second.
Straza again. Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Straza,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentini.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Congratulations, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good day. Thank you. So that, none seeing any other petitions or anything else on the current docket. Caitlin, I guess at this point, we'll just ask for any new business. No one? Any old business? Okay. Then
I have-
let's-
Is it possible that the people were having trouble testifying, getting online? Is there a way, is there any indication that they were trying to access online and couldn't? The first
Not to
case.
my awareness.
Okay,
No emails or anything.
okay, thank you.
There's no reciprocal correspondence back to you at all? Okay. Okay. I mean, I think that's only fair that we try to bring them back, you know,
Sure,
give them that opportunity before we vote.
sure.
Anything else? Thank you, guys, not for laughing at me.
Nice
I
job.
appreciate it.
Pretty
Thank you.
smooth.
I guess I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I think that's it.
Do we
Oh,
need
we
to
have to
vote?
vote on it. We got to vote on it?
Yeah. Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Straza,
Yes.
Mr. Noonan,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentini.
Yes,
That carries.
motion adjourned.
I was
Thank you,
afraid-
guys.
I was afraid
Thank
for a minute
you.
Mr. Valentini was going to vote no.
Yeah, well, Thanks, George.
Good job, Terry. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See you next month.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right.